Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of AskDproS Business, where we speak to business owners, entrepreneurs, the common issue to share their journey, their story, how they started. In a way, trying to, tell us, this is how I've started my business, and this is how I've, succeeded in my business, difficulties as well, success stories, and on this show, we've got Hayley. Hayley is the founder of ICOS. She's here to share her journey, tell us a story, how she started that business, and Hayley, on this show, we always start from the beginning, which means, telling us how this whole thing started for you. And for you, how did this whole thing start for you?
So my journey started when I was 17. I was working in a part-time job, fresh out of college, and not particularly enjoying where I was working. The managers were more interested in their own internal politics than they were, improving the department. They didn't want to listen to anybody else's opinions, anybody else's sort of contributions on how to improve things. And the final straw came when I applied to go on a management program, a training program, and was rejected because they said that I was too young. So that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say.
Yeah. You were too young.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I just had enough at that point. So I set off on my business journey very shortly after that. And it was really based on sort of a bit of a sarcastic comment from a family member about how I was OCD in cleaning. And that was how I started my life in business. With the business, it was only ever supposed to be a part-time job until I worked out what I wanted to do with myself. But within 4 months, I'd got enough clients to take on staff, and the commercial cleaning business just grew from there.
Wow. And to ask Hayley, how old were you then?
I was 18 then.
Wow, such a young age, started that business, and you grew the business straight away. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so within 4 months, we had enough work to be able to take on staff to do the cleaning, so that I didn't have to do it all. And it just grew from there, really. And it was very gradual. It was a very steady process. It didn't happen overnight. But as things became busier, I became a lot more bogged down in the day-to-day. I was really frustrated and couldn't always see the wood for the trees. And, that was when I sort of, there was something that happened. A family member had passed, and she was very young, and she left behind a very young family. And it was that sort of made me realise that actually I don't want to work until I'm old and grey. I don't want to be in a cycle of frustration and working till my death and not actually enjoying my life and not being able to see my children grow up. So I made some real fundamental changes in my life and for the business, and really took it from there. And once I started to implement some real key systems and processes and make some real decisions on what it was that I wanted my business to do for me, that was when things really started to shift and move forward. And it got to a point at the age of 26 where I'd essentially made myself redundant from that company in that it had grown and I had a team in it managing it on a daily basis.
Wow, man, that's great, man. What an amazing journey, But in making that decision, were there any difficulties? Because when we make certain decisions, you think about your family, how you're gonna pay your rent, how you're gonna, take care of the kids, like was there anything that could hold you back in making that decision?
I think underlying, I'd always wanted to be in a position where when I was at a point of having a family, I could be there for the children, that I could pick them up from school and I could do activities with them, because that's something that I suppose I didn't have as a child. My parents always worked full time. They were and always have been really hardworking people, but they worked 9 to 5. I was one of the latchkey kids, as they call it. I used to let myself in when I got home from school, and and there's nothing wrong with that. People do it, and that's how families run. But I know it's something that I always wanted to do differently when I came to have my own children. I was able to do that. So I think deep down I always knew, but it wasn't until we lost that family member who left behind 2 very young children, and it was just it was so sad, it was a real sad time, but you sort of realised that, she was in the same position as my parents were in, working 9 to 5 and not being able to see her family. And, obviously, unfortunately, she passed, and it was a really rough time. Wow. And it makes you sort of evaluate life differently.
Yeah, it makes you see life differently, And Hayley, when it comes to making those decisions, because for people that are on 9 to 5, I also have a 9 to 5 as well, I think for that, from my own perspective, it's always a case of, it's kind of like a comfort zone. Like you know that, at the end of the month, you're going to get your paycheck, you're going to get your money in your bank account. But for going into business full time, there's always this thing of, what if I don't get, paid this month? How do I survive? And for you, did that ever come across your mind? Like, I'm quitting my job now, making myself redundant, and I want to go into business full time. Did that ever come across your mind? Like, okay, what if I don't make money this month? What's gonna happen to me?
Yeah, so I was in a very different position. I mean, I was a kid. I was still living at home with my parents, so I didn't have that financial burden that others have. But I'd have come across people that have been in that position where they've been working a full-time job, and they want to give it up in order to pursue their dream of having a business. And I think that really depends on the circumstances in which each individual person's in. I know others that have done it and have sort of sat down with their partners and said, right, okay, this is my plan, and given themselves a target by when they want to have achieved a certain level of income and a consistent income at that. Again, I think it really depends on the business, but deep down, you've got to decide really whether or not you are truly passionate about what it is that you're doing. And if you are, you find a way to make it work, because, you can stay in that comfort zone because you're scared all you want, but then you're never going to move forward, and essentially you're getting in your own way of fulfilling that dream and reaching that vision.
Yeah, it's true, you're right. Because for example, for me, starting this podcast, because it was just 9 to 5 for me, but I said I want to do something different, based on my story, how I started and how I got into construction, and how I got into employment as well. I took it upon myself to just go on this journey, because I wanted to just do something different apart from 9 to 5. I wanted to just make a statement for myself, and now I'm on this journey now, and I'm meeting people like you, whole range from different backgrounds as well, around the world as well, telling their stories, their business journey, sharing that with my guests, with my audience as well, and I'm starting to see that, there's more to life. Life is short. Why just confine yourself in one particular, space, and you're just there, going there every day, and that's just it. For me, I think there's really more to life,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And looking at your business name, is so interesting. I know that when we want to start a business, the name is always something that we play with as well. For you, what was the motivation behind your name? ICOS. What was that thing that actually prompted you to name your business that name?
So IECOS stands for improving efficiency using key operational systems, because essentially that is what I do. I help businesses to become more efficient and more effective at what they do by implementing the right systems and strategies. But it's also a derivative of the children's names, of my children's names. So it's got that personal connection as well, with that connection to their names.
Okay, I see that, because it's something that you when you look at it, you said, I'm on this journey already, and I'm not going to give up. There's no turning back. So it's, for me, I think it sounds like a motivation, which is good, and going past, you started this at the age of 18, you grew the business, everything was good, at that point, and for you, what was next for you?
So I then, after leaving that business, was approached by a few other people who were in business and had reached a bit of a stumbling block. One of which I became quite involved in, and actually became a shareholder of that business, to help them to overcome their frustrations and their challenges within their organisation. And originally, when they first came to me, it was all around cash flow and around staff. But actually, when we really dug down into the business, there was a lot more going on under the surface that the director hadn't realised. So I spent quite a while working in that business to do a sort of almost a turnaround on it. And in the background was working with some other people, doing some consultancy projects with their businesses that weren't quite so in depth. And yeah, it was then I realized that actually I've got a passion for, you know, helping people to get out of that cycle of frustration. You know, I always describe it as it's like being on a hamster wheel. You're just working really hard and your little legs are going like mad. You're not actually going anywhere. You know, you're not moving forward, you're not making progress. And it's so frustrating. It can be overwhelming and it can be so exacerbating when you're working so hard and you know that you're putting everything that you've got into it, but it's still not working and you're still not making progress. And it's usually because there's something missing, or there's something that you're missing that's going on that you're not seeing. So that's where I can help them by sort of pulling them away and reassessing the business and reassessing them and working out what's going on and in fixing it, ready to move forward.
Yeah, great, man. Now you dove into this new venture, you know, so with your previous business, you know, Icos, what was going on there? Or is this a branch of that business, or this is a totally different improvement business?
It's a completely different business, but it's very much inspired by the challenges and the frustrations that I faced and I experienced. So the most common frustrations that business owners usually face are around money. So it's around finance. It could be cash flow. It could be sales. It could be, you know, it's in terms of getting money in. Other common topics of frustration are around people, getting a consistent work level out of their people, getting a consistent output, getting consistent customer service, you know, and having a consistency internally, which usually is around their people and around their systems. And then the other is time. You know, they don't feel like they've got time, or they're investing all their time in the wrong areas. So it's sort of the trap, you know, the money, time and team trap that they find themselves stuck in. And it's about sort of being able to assess it. And I was guilty of being in that same trap. You know, I was seeing inconsistency of service to clients. I was seeing inconsistency of team members. I was seeing high staff turnover and, you know, all of these things that happened within my business that I had to rectify. And I was able to design systems and processes and, you know, operational procedures to eliminate all of those challenges that then freed me up to focus on working in areas of the business that I actually enjoyed, but also, you know, long term to actually exit the business and have a team in there managing it, and it operates now without me having to do anything.
Wow, great. Now, in terms of, you know, you branding, because we all have this thing about, you know, branding our business, you know, how we grow our business as well, you know. In terms of growing your growing Icos, you know, branding it, what steps did you take, you know, branding it, you know, making it different from other businesses, you know, how did you go about that?
So what makes it different to other businesses is me. You know, it's a very different, you know, when I had my first business, it was all about the service. It was all about the staff. It was all about, you know, the appearance and how we came across to customers, because essentially we help them to, you know, give their customers the best possible environment in which to visit, etc. Whereas this time it was a whole different concept. You know, it's all about it's me, it's my expertise, it's my knowledge, it's my experience, it's my, you know, inspiration in terms of the things that I've done. So I think for me it was less about the company name and more about my brand and my value and what I can bring to people. And I think it really depends on your business as to how you sort of brand yourself, really.
Okay, cool. Nice one, man.
I made a mistake in my first business of focusing it all on me, and realised actually it wasn't about me. It was about, you know, the service. It was about the cleaners, and it was about the actual customer service. Whereas this time I went sort of in some respect where, you know, I built the brand and did really well with the brand, and then realized that actually, no, it's me that's got the value to give to people that I'm working with. So it's just a different concept. So it depends on the business.
That's great, man. And going back a few minutes, you spoke about, you know, when you get into the business, you assess the business, you know, in terms of assessing a business, you know, and just take us through a journey, you know, how you do that. Like, you go into a business, you know, how do you find the red flags? You know, how do you, know what are the key things you look for, you know, in order for you to improve that selling business?
Well, initially it's a conversation, you know, it's understanding from the business owner, manager, you know, what their frustration is, and what they're feeling and how that's impacting them. And then we dive into the business. Then we start to look at what's really going on in the business, because the two are very different things usually. You know, what the business owner is feeling and the emotions and the frustration that they're feeling is usually different to what the actual problem is. And that's really key for them to identify. But we find out what the problems are within the business by doing something called a gap analysis. And that is a tool that I've specifically designed that helps people to truly assess their business in all levels, in all areas, under all the hats. And then once we know what the gaps are, we know what we need to work on.
Okay, that's great, man. But now, comparing this your new journey, you know, to your cleaning business. Now, your cleaning business, how does that run now? You know, who are you still the main person that runs that business, or you have people looking after that business?
Oh no, I have a team. I have a team that looks after that business. I haven't done anything within that business since 2016.
Wow, that's great, man. That's amazing.
So I'm still on the end of the phone, you know, if ever they need anything, if they ever struggle with anything, or if they have any major challenges that they are facing that they can't quite fathom out. I'm always there, you know, to answer the phone and to support them. But no, I don't do anything day to day, and I haven't done for nearly 5 years now.
Wow, Hayley, man, that's such a huge trust to put on people, you know. Do you ever get worried that something might go wrong?
No, because nothing can go that wrong that I can't deal with it. You know, I know the business inside and out. I know, you know, everything that's going on, and we have a really good relationship. And also, you know, just because I'm not involved in the business doesn't mean I'm not watching what's going on. So I still check in. I still visit every now and again. I still, you know, ask certain questions. They have certain KPIs that they have to meet, and expectations. And, you know, if there is something major going on, I usually know about it before they do, because I can see the change in the figures, or the change in the behaviours, or the change in sort of the messages that I hear and things like that. So yeah, I have a number of things in the business still that sort of keep me regularly informed of what's going on.
Yeah. That's good, Hayley, man. Nice one, man. You just mentioned figures now, you know, changing figures, you know, talking about that, you know, with this coronavirus pandemic, you know, how has that affected your business? You know, and I know that it's a huge thing the whole world is facing right now, you know, and that will probably have like a maybe positive impact or negative impact. We don't know, but I know with cleaning, you know, I think a lot of businesses that are in cleaning, I think they kind of like it affected them positively, you know, but for you, how did the COVID, you know, pandemic affect your business?
Initially, I think we were the same as everybody else. It was quite a shock. You know, we never really anticipated the lockdown in the severity in which it was brought upon us. But thankfully, you know, with the furlough schemes and the government support that's been available in the UK, that's been very helpful. It's enabled everybody to keep their jobs, because although the industry itself is busier, it was busier in the short term while there was a hype, but then you also have to think about all the offices and buildings that completely closed down overnight and went to work from home, so they no longer needed support. So there was growth in one area, but then there was loss in another area. So yeah, it's not been as you know, people have perceived the industry to be absolutely flying, but for some businesses it is, and for some businesses it isn't. It depends on what your niche is within that area.
Yeah, nice one, great.
And that's the same for all businesses.
Yeah. But in terms of measuring success in business, like, people go into business for different reasons, different satisfaction as well. Now in terms of, you want to be successful in business, are there any metrics, you can use to measure that? People go into business because of different reasons, and the reason might be, you want to have more money, or you want to find happiness, it's your passion, but for you that have done that, in terms of, measuring those kind of successes, are like metrics to use in measuring success in business, are there any, have you used any?
Business journeys have always been based on vision. Where I want to go, what I want to achieve, and how that matches with my personal vision and my personal plans. Because I think often people will look at their business as one thing and their personal, successes as a separate thing. Whereas for me, if you're running a business, that business is personal, because that business is the vehicle that's going to give you the life that you want personally. So for me, it's about looking at what is success to you. Is it driving a certain type of car? Is it living in a certain postcode? Or is it, doing something that truly makes you happy? Is it doing something that actually you get good value from, in terms of, you're following your passion, but at the same time you're getting paid to follow your passion, So I think you can only determine your success based on what your idea of success is and what your vision is and why you're doing what you're doing. So that kind of brings it all back to what's the purpose of it. And once you know what your purpose is and you know what your vision is, then you know whether or not you've been successful. So for example, with me, the idea of success was that by the age of 30, I didn't want to have to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, because I wanted to have children and I wanted to have the flexibility of being able to work around them. I managed to achieve that by the age of 26, and then I had to realign what my idea of success was. I had to realign my next vision. I had to realign with what was right for me then,
Cool. So you to say, for you, it was in stages, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Hayley, you've done really well. You've done really well for yourself. I can say that. I can see what you're doing. You're doing a great job as well. But in the course of your, going into business, leaving that business and growing another business as well, what would you say is the best advice you've gotten so far? And someone gave you an advice and says, has anybody given you an advice before? But if they've given you advice in terms of growing your business, what is that advice that they gave you?
I've had lots of advice in my business journey, some good, some bad. I think the number one thing that has been the most resonant for me is get out of your head and just do it. Don't overthink things, don't overcomplicate things. Get out of your head and just get on and do it.
Yeah, nice one. Well, if you were to go back in time, would you change anything?
Oh my goodness, yes. Lots. Oh gosh, yeah. I've done so many things in my business journey that, if you look back and, I've made bad hiring decisions. I've spent money on things that you think, oh, I never got a return on that. Why did I waste my money? And, but that's what being in business is all about. That's life, you don't get to, a certain age in life and look back and think, oh, I've not got any regrets. Everybody's got regrets. Everybody wishes they'd done things a different way, but that is all part of learning. It's all part of the experience, all part of the journey. And, you won't get it right all the time. Nobody ever does. That's just life. But it's about learning from that mistake and, where possible, learning from other people's mistakes before you make them yourself.
Yeah, that reminds me of someone I interviewed some couple of months back. He said it's good to like learn newer mistakes. Like if you made a mistake in the past, you already know that I'm never gonna make that mistake again. But it's the good thing about it is that you're going to make newer mistakes, not the old ones.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, cool. And Hayley, if someone comes to you now and said, Hayley, I've looked at your business, looked at you as well, you're doing great, I love what you're doing, I also want to go into business as well, what would be that thing? What would be the advice for that person? Someone that wants to go into business, maybe a business like yours.
Someone that wants to go into business.
Yeah, probably the business like yours or something totally different from yours, but I know that, the skills you have and knowledge you have, they're also transferable as well, so in that line, what would you tell that person?
I think the first thing is to make sure that you're crystal clear in what you want in terms of a vision. So, imagining yourself living that vision and experiencing that vision. Because if you haven't, it's so easy to go off track. And everything that you're doing needs to be in line with that vision. It's if it doesn't make the boat go faster, don't put it on the boat. There was a famous sports coach that had a phrase, of will it make the boat go faster? And if it won't make the boat go faster, then he didn't want to know about it. And I forget who it was that did the coach, but I do remember reading something about it, and I just thought, you know what, that makes sense. So I think have a crystal clear vision and make sure that you've got activities and an action plan of how you're going to make that vision a reality. Because lots of people start out in business and they think, I'll write a big business plan and I'll have all these fancy statistics and cash flow forecasts, and that's all great. But if you haven't got a strategy of actions that you're going to take to bring that vision to reality, then a business plan means nothing. So I think having those activities that are crystal clear and they're in line with that vision, that's what you need.
Yeah. A typical example is that, I just throw this in is, as a boxer, you're getting ready, for a boxing match. You can get ready all you want, 6 months, 8 months, a year, get ready. But until you have that punch, when they give you that punch, you already know that, okay, yes, this is it now, So you like in terms, you never realize, what you're doing, until you actually come across like a hurdle or obstacle, issues, so you now realize that, okay, this is it now, I'm in this match now fighting, and there's no way out for me, and I need to face my demons, and get out of this fight alive.
Definitely.
Yeah, a nice one, man. It's been nice having this conversation with you, So to end this, what would be that one thing you want someone to take away from this? Someone will listen to you and say, Hayley said this, what would be that one thing?
I think if they are struggling with anything in their business, reach out and speak to people, especially at the moment, with the world that we're living in, people are isolated, people are struggling behind the scenes, behind closed doors. So I think it's so important at the moment, if you're struggling in business, to be reaching out and having conversations with people and be open to conversations and be open to being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I'm struggling here and I need help. Because the longer you struggle, the more painful the process is going to be. Whereas if you just reach out to somebody and put your hand out of the water and say, do you know what, I could really do with a hand here, there will be people out there that can help. You just need to be having those conversations. Nice
one, Hayley, man. Love it, man. Where is the best place to get in touch with you? If someone wants to get in touch with Hayley, where is that place?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and also through the website, which is iecos.co.uk.
Nice one, man. Hayley, man. It's been nice having this conversation with you, and I'm also grateful for the time as well. Nice.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Nice, good one.